So, today, it's Easter weekend. Today is what I call Silent Saturday. Why do I call it that? You'll find out on Tofer's Take. So, yesterday was Good Friday, where, people say Christ was crucified, and buried. Tomorrow is Easter, when he rose from the dead. But you see, I've always wondered, what happened Saturday? What happened today? And the Bible is pretty quiet on it, and at least initially, maybe. So I've given it a little bit of thought, this year. And I think I talked about it some last year in my podcast, but I've given it a little thought this year. You see, Christ died, and if you look in Matthew 27, you get a little bit of a hint, and I'll come back to that in 1 minute. But people say, the disciples were hiding because they were afraid of the Romans and the Pharisees, and people were looking for them, and might want to, kill them, and I am not totally discounting that, mind you, okay? I would just like to maybe think about something else. You see, because I do, think with Peter's denial, maybe they were a little bit, afraid, of the religious leaders or the Romans. But you see, something happened Easter morning when Christ rose. He told Mary and the women, go tell my disciples, and that kind of leads us to believe that the disciples were all together. But were they solely hiding from the Pharisees and the leaders? I don't think so. I did say that's probably a part of it, but hear me out for just 1 second. You see, we get a story in Matthew 27 that I don't think is really in any of the other Gospels. We get that, 3 things that stick out. There was an earthquake. It says the earth shook. Okay, yeah, not that big of a deal. I don't think there's that many in Israel ever, but factor in that it was, dark on 3 hours that day. And then earthquake, yeah. If you were into signs of nature, that'd probably not be a good sign. And I think the darkness that surrounded the Christ on the cross was much like the darkness in Exodus. Darkness that could be felt. Total speculation on that, though. There was an earthquake. The temple veil ripped in half. Now, sometimes I'm inside and I'll have a curtain behind me. Do not think the temple veil was something like that. It was not. It was thick, and people say it was anywhere from 2 to 6 stories tall, okay? The ripping of the veil in half was no small feat, And if I was a religious leader of the day, I'd be freaking out just as much, if not more, about that than a bunch of ragtag, people trying to lead a rebellion, especially after we just put their leader to death. I would be more concerned about the temple veil being ripped than that. And then it says the graves opened up and the saints were resurrected. So a lot of people are seeing ghosts. Now, if I am the disciple. And you factor in at one point they would have had to get the news about Judas hanging himself. Maybe it was Saturday, or sometime, maybe it wasn't. But if I'm the disciples, and I know at least about the darkness and the earthquake, and I hear about the temple veil, and then I hear about ghost stories, the dead being raised, yeah, I'm going to be hiding, okay? I'm going to be, freaking out a little. Then Easter Sunday, the women went to the grave, and they came back, oh, Jesus is alive, Jesus is alive. Are you beginning to understand why some of them doubted? And maybe why Peter and John ran to check it out? Just some thoughts, on what the disciples' mindset, what they could have been thinking, what was going on, back then on the Silent Saturday. I could be 100% wrong on this. Maybe they weren't hiding, from fear of what was going on around them, and maybe a little bit of the fear of the Pharisees and religious leaders. Maybe they were just kicking it, enjoying the Sabbath. I don't know. Like I said, this is speculation, but I think it's something worth speculating about. I think it's intriguing to think about, and wonder, well, what were they doing? Anyway, just some thoughts for you guys. Hopefully I'll see you all next week. You guys take care. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and have a good Pesach and Easter. Peace.